y'all. Check it out. Here I am in the heart of Deep East Texas. It's a special day. I'm gonna pick some tomatoes. My first, well, not really my first tomatoes. I picked a few little pear-shaped cherry tomatoes, but I'm gonna pick my first red tomato and I'll show them to you right now. Okay, couple good looking tomatoes. Whenever I pick tomatoes, the first few tomatoes, it always makes me think of my dad. My dad was a school teacher, so he had summers off, but he'd always have work to do, projects, but he'd always put in a big summer garden, a big garden. I grew up in western New York, and it had a pretty short growing season. So my dad did everything he could to grow as much as he could, as fast as he could. And he'd put a black plastic tarp over our big garden early in the spring, and that would warm up the ground, and then he'd cut little X's and put rows of tomatoes and pepper plants and zucchinis and squash and hot peppers. We had some big grapevines growing on our back fence, and it was a heck of a garden, and I loved it. I was the son that loved the garden. My oldest brother, he was really smart, had all the science and math, and my middle brother was the real active one. He was a sport and was into scouting and riding his mini bikes, but I loved to garden, and that was the thing that we kind of shared. He loved to garden, I loved to garden. Just a little tiny kid, I'd be out standing in the garden looking for tomatoes or beans or hornworm tomato worms. And I still, when I pick the tomatoes and I smell the tomato plants on me, I flash back to that garden at 16 Greenmore Way, and what fun and how cool it was. We'd pick so many tomatoes. My mom would be canning and freezing and making spaghetti sauce. We had a little back room in our basement that was just filled with mason jars that had tomatoes and squash and zucchini. And I don't think I had store-bought spaghetti sauce until after my mom died, because we had so many tomatoes, we'd have to sneak them in paper bags onto people's porches, because a lot of other people had gardens too. But it became kind of a game at church or in the neighborhood to pass off some of those giant zucchinis and some of those squashes to people. And it was good memories, good stuff. So these tomatoes bring back a lot of memories. I hope that you're starting to pick some tomatoes in your garden. Some of you I've seen are already getting loads of them, and some of you are just planting the seeds right now. But when you get here, I hope it brings back some memories. And if it doesn't, if you don't have a heritage of growing then start your new history in gardening and share it with some young people. I don't have any kids, but I have some nieces and nephews, and I've got some great nieces and a great nephew. My dad's great-great-grandson is just about 2 years old, and I've seen pictures of his little twin sisters that are about 5 or 6 years old picking tomatoes in their garden, and it's pretty trippy. It's awful cool. So, hey, enjoy your day, get out in your garden, and I'm going to show you some pictures around. And
here are the little yellow pear tomatoes. I've been picking a few of these, probably half a dozen, maybe 10. I usually just eat them. They never make it up to the apartment. Here are some of the pepper plants. Now these are Red Marconi and Golden Gatherer, and I can't tell which is which until they start changing colors, because they're about the same size. They're sweet, one's yellow and one's red, but right now they're just green. But the plants are doing really good. Got a bunch of them still flowering. And here's my holy eggplant. I told you about the bugs that eat the holes, but they don't mess with the eggplants. And here's a little eggplant here. It's still growing. And his little brother. There's about 4 or 5 of these on each plant. Here's my cranberry hibiscus. You can see the little red prickly looking things. Those are the calyxes. That's where the flowers are. It becomes a tangy little red fruit. They're really good. I got them planted all over. Here is that crazy volunteer squash. It's growing all over the place, and it's starting to put on a bunch of fruit. Here they are, the little ones. They start out kind of yellow shaped and they start to turn green, and I don't know when they're going to be ready, but this one looking like it's just about ready. I mean, I think. Here's a little more hibiscus, and then a couple different kind of tomatoes, and a couple more eggplants that I got back here. Hopefully the bugs won't get them. And there's my giant squash, and you can see I cleared out a couple of the beds. Hopefully I'll have some okra to put in there soon.
so, hey, I'll see you next time in the garden.